Hi class, I hope you're doing well today. I'm on sick leave yesterday and today, but I would like you to spend this class completing your evidence banks or updating your evidence banks and also studying for the test on Friday, which is a short answer question test. In this video, I want to quickly review what short answers should look like and especially focus on how that would look like in the cognitive approach. So, yeah. To begin with, in the cognitive approach, we have covered the schema theory, models of memory in which we focused on multi-stored model, levels of processing model, and working memory model. In reliability of memory, in your case studies, you explored several different factors that influence or rather negatively affect the reliability of memory. And some of these are reconstruction of memory, leading questions, weapon focus effect, and you would really have to focus on one of that for the short answer question. And then finally, we have covered emotions and memory, in which we focus on flashbulb memories. So for this test, since it is a short answer question test, you only need to remember one research per topic. And for this for this test, you will only have to study for schema theory, reliability of memory, and emotions and memory. Okay, models of memory is not going to be on the test. I will ask you two SAQ questions. Okay, not three like you would in a normal exam. You'll be asked two SAQ questions from either schema theory, reliability of memory, or emotions and memory. Okay, so you will be given 40 minutes to 45 minutes. I will decide that, probably 45 minutes, to finish your responses on Microsoft Forms. And yeah, so you'll be typing your responses out. To go over the SAQ command terms again, we have gone over this, but I just want, again, like I said, I want to refresh your memory about it and also focus on how this would look like in the cognitive approach. There's three command terms, which is outline, describe, and explain. So for outline, you need to show or demonstrate a brief general understanding of the concept or theory. And for that, that basically means that if they're asking you about a theory or a model, you need to give a general gist of it. Okay, so if it's flashbulb memory, you would say that define flashbulb memories that they are vivid, long-lasting memories of a personally significant event. Okay, and then you will go on to talking about the factors that help form it, okay, and also the factors that help maintain it, and briefly describe each of those. So if it's like distinctiveness, what is that? And if it's proximity, what does that mean? And again, that does not have to be in too much detail, just brief ideas of what that would look like. So for that outline question, you would then go on to outlining a research, okay, to support that theory. Again, I would, for SAQ questions, ask you to use research that supports the theory and doesn't contradict it, okay? It just makes your explanations of the research and tying the research back so much easier for you, okay? So you will describe the research in terms of aim, procedure, and findings at the least. Sometimes it'll have to be in more details, and other times it will not have to be in too much detail. Okay? So for an outline question, if it's asking you to outline the theory, then you will outline the theory and then describe the research and have a quick tie-up at the end. For describe, okay, it could ask you to describe a theory or it could ask you to describe a research, and that there is a difference in that. Okay, first of all, describing would mean that the examiners are expecting you to tell what you know about that topic in as much detail as possible. And again, always be careful what they are asking you to describe. Okay, is it the research or is it the theory? Okay, so if it's the theory and they're asking you to describe one theory of how emotions influence a cognitive process, you will talk about flashbulb memories, okay? And you will describe flashbulb memories in as much detail as possible, explaining or rather describing, fully describing each of those factors that help form it and maintain it. It would be good to give an example of a flashbulb memory, okay, in that paragraph, so that shows that you know it and you know how to apply it, okay? And then after you've described the theory fully, you will describe the research, and again, if the focus is on the theory, you will not have to describe the research in full detail. But if it's asking you to describe the research, you will have to describe the research in more detail than the theory itself. Okay, so please be very mindful in reading the questions. Even though these command terms are quite similar, there are differences, and being able to identify these differences will help you move up to the higher mark bands, okay? So which is 7 to 9 out of the question, which is for 9 marks, okay? And finally, explain. I think this is the most extensive question of the three. Even though they're all SAQ command terms, I think explaining the theory or the research is most demanding in terms of these command terms. And usually in an exam, they would balance it out because you will have three SAQ questions, one from the biological approach, one from the cognitive approach, and one from the social cultural approach. So it is highly likely that they balance these out, the command terms, I mean. But explaining is the most extensive. So if it's asking you to explain the theory, okay, you have to fully describe the theory. Here, description still happens for this question. Okay, so you will fully describe the theory in as much detail as possible. Okay, and then you will describe the research. This does not, if it's asking you to explain the theory, you don't have to describe the research in complete details. Okay, not, you don't have to care about too much about what the sampling number was and all of that again, and what the experimental design was. You need to give the basic aim, procedure, and findings in a very outline kind of format. Okay, it doesn't have to be fully described, but the focus then on would be for you to explain the research in terms of the theory. Okay, so if it was asking about flashbulb memories, you would have to explain which part of the factors that help form a flashbulb memory and maintain a flashbulb memory is relevant to this research. Okay, and the findings of this research. So that's going to be the main focus if it's asking you to explain the theory. And if it's asking you to explain one research in relation to the theory, you will have to describe the theory. Okay, again, this wouldn't have to be in full description, but you will have to describe the research in full description and explain it in relation to the theory. So the focus is very important. Okay, yeah, so again, the basic tips about SAQ, I would say 250 to 300 words minimum. A lot of kids usually write a lot more than that, but I don't think it's necessary for someone to write a whole lot, because that is not indicative of how, like, the quality of your response. So to ensure the quality of your response, there are a few things that you should follow that'll help you achieve those top band grades. First of all, your very first sentence should directly answer the question. I cannot stress on this more than anything. It is so important because that really sets the tone for your essay and how you've understood the command term or not. Okay, so please make sure that the first sentence describes and, fully answers the question. And I will give you an example, which I have in the past again. Once you've done that, you need to define the terms. Okay, any terms used in the question should be defined. So if it's again, going back to emotions and memory, hint hint, emotions and memory, emotions and cognition, the question will ask you about emotion, how emotion influences cognition. So again, the IB allows us to study any cognition of our choice, and usually it's memory and decision making that we do choose, but you need to, in your first sentence, say one theory that explains the influence of emotion on memory is the flashbulb memory theory. Okay, so you are identifying both the variables, basically emotion and memory. Okay, and then you will go on to this defining what memory is, then what flashbulb memories are, and fully describing what flashbulb memories are depending on the command term, and then you will have to give a research example. Okay, so the research example at the minimum has to be a brief description of the aim, procedure, and findings. If it's asking you to focus on the research and explain or describe the research, be sure to give more details in that case. okay? And here, if you do not describe the theory or outline the theory or explain the theory, again, you will get at the most 4 out of 9 points. Okay, just giving a research is not enough. Even if it's asking you to explain or describe a research, you do need to outline the theory to begin with. Okay, so please make sure that both are done, or else you will literally at the most get 4 points. And this is what mark schemes usually would suggest that. And on the other hand, if you just described the theory or model, that would also mean that you get at the most up to 4 points, and that is if it is completely and really well described and unpacked. Okay, and finally, the last sentence or the concluding paragraph or sentence or two would be to explicitly link your study to the question. Okay, and if the question is of emotion and memory, you need to explicitly link it to that. And for the explain command term, again, the link needs to be even more elaborated, but for other questions, it is a minimum requirement for you to do that, okay? Even if it's a brief statement linking the two, okay? So this is the basic idea of SAQ questions. I had put more tips on OneNote. I can copy and paste that, but I think this should give you a better understanding or an easy understanding of it.